Hi everyone, and welcome to the TechGirl Masterclass series from Hot Topics. I'm Kani Solabani, community editor here at Hot Topics. Now, before we get into the thick of it, I want to introduce this amazing community. Now, this is our first virtual TechGirl Masterclass of 2025, and it's been great to connect young women in education all over the UK and getting senior leaders in business and tech on board to mentor you all in order for you to learn from them and eventually help you further along in your careers. Now, we've got loads of new leaders joining us as mentors, and a lot of them are offering work placements. So please do stay tuned and wait for an update on those opportunities. Now, these masterclasses complement the second part of Tech Girl, which is all about covering topics and areas that you weren't taught at school. So this could be how to hone your soft skills, or how to network with other tech professionals, and the importance of digital skills. Now, today's masterclass is all about acing your interview. And this could be any kind of interview. So maybe it's for college, an apprenticeship, university, or you've got your first job. So the whole process can be a little bit daunting. We all know that. So we've put together a little masterclass to help you become a little more confident and proactive in preparing for this. And who better to advise you than some very experienced tech leaders who've been through it all. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the speakers of this masterclass: Lydia and Nicolas of Amnesty International, Danielle Bishoff from London Business School, and Danielle Bishoff Foresight from Brew Coffee. I'll let them say a little bit about themselves and what they do, and then we'll get to the questions. Thank you all for joining us today. Lydia, I'll come to you first.
Hi everyone, I'm Lydia Nicolas. I'm the head of IT operations at Amnesty International. I've got 10 years experience in charitable IT of various sorts. That's where my passion lies. And I've done a lot of interviews on both sides in that time.
Lovely, thank you. And Danielle?
Hello, Danielle Bishoff Foresight. I lead the tech organization at Brew Coffee, and also have been in multiple interviews on both sides of the table. Been in tech for about 35 years.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Danny.
Thank you, Kani. Really pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm Danny Atias, as you said. I'm currently at London Business School as a Chief Digital Information Officer. Previously, like Lydia, I was in the not-for-profit, but in the charity sector with Anthony Nolan, the Stem Cell Register and blood cancer charity. And I've bumbled around tech for a few decades, going in and out of a few interviews, conducting them, attending them as well. So really looking forward to sharing some of that experience.
Lovely. We got a super experienced panel today, so we'll get stuck into it. My first question for you all is, what are the biggest mistakes people make during interviews in general, and how can they avoid them? Lydia, I'll come to you first.
Trying to tell the interviewer what they think the interviewer wants to hear, rather than actually being truthful and giving the answer to the best of their abilities. I think, everyone wants to portray themselves in the best light in an interview, but honestly being yourself and coming in, being honest when you don't know things, I think is the best way forward.
And Danny, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree with Lydia. I think, to build on that, imagine you're trying to be who you think they're looking for, but what they're looking for is you, and you do so well in convincing them you are who you think they think you should be. It's like you've got to be yourself. And probably the other one is, and it's not so much a mistake, but about nerves. I think we can all get worked up going into an interview, and we can appear very tense. And I think one of the messages we need to tell ourselves is, it's an interview. You're going to be nervous. It's okay. They're expecting you to be nervous. I can't think of a single interview where the first 5 minutes, the person isn't nervous or tense. It's going to happen to everyone. And so rather than kind of getting yourself wound up about, I'm too nervous, I'm going to appear nervous, and I'm not quite sure how to act, it's going back to Lydia's point. Just be yourself. Know that it's going to be a little bit tough for the first few minutes to get warmed up, and then build on it from there.
So Daniel, how do you think one can warm up to an interview? How can they be themselves while also trying to sell themselves during the interview?
Was that Danielle?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. For me, I think the thing to do is prepare. Make sure that you've researched the company. If you know who you're interviewing with, know something about them. And I think if you go in and feel prepared, that will help a bit with the nerves. It will also help you connect, and it will help you do exactly what Lydia and Danny said. I mean, be yourself, and then it's all about fit. So if you're a good fit for the organization by doing that homework up front and then coming in and furthering the conversation.
And so some people might be nervous going into an interview if it's tech related because, students don't have a lot of experience in that area. How can they show their passion for the subject without having any prior experience? How can they get that across to the interviewer?
I'll jump in on that one. I think you just have to tell your story. I mean, think about different situations where you've had experience in the space, whether it be a school project, whether it be a job, whether it be an internship, just about anything, a club that you belong to. You come and you can bring and provide connection to maybe even what the job would entail, whether it's leadership, whether it's tech skills, whatever it is. Just try to help bring examples that make the connection that people can see that you could do the job, even if you haven't done it already.
And Danny, what are your thoughts on that?
They're looking for the human. So yeah, they might look for X number of years of Scrum Master experience or product, or what coding skills have you got. But if you're relatively young, if you're relatively inexperienced in the field and they're interviewing you, then they're not looking for 15 years software development experience, are they? But they are looking for the human, and they're looking for the potential, and they're looking at communication skills, they're looking at influencing skills. They're looking, I suppose, in a way, in the back of their mind, they're thinking about who are the best people in my team, not the best coders or the best analysts or the best project managers, but who are the best people. And the best people will often be the people who can get the message across, the people that they can depend on, the people that have got energy and drive and really want to make a difference. And you've got all those things, right, with no coding experience. So bringing that to the table and just somehow letting them see that in that fixed amount of time is what it's all about.
Lydia, do you agree?
Oh, 100%. I think particularly when you're looking at entry-level jobs, the people hiring aren't looking for tech experience. They know you don't have that. They're looking for someone who's enthusiastic and passionate and willing to work and interested in the subject, and someone who's going to be able to communicate with everyone else. When I'm hiring entry-level roles, I don't really care about their tech skills. We can teach technology. We can't teach the ability to be a good colleague, to be a hard worker, to communicate well with everyone. So I'm always looking for those things more than hundreds of years of tech experience.
Yeah,
Go on, Danielle.
Well, I'll add to what Lydia said. I mean, especially, in our space, we look for high learning agility as well. If somebody can show that they're going to come in, because tech changes so rapidly, what they know now anyway is going to be obsolete in a couple of years. So it's the ability to come in and be a learner and dive in. And I suppose that our soft skills, just like Lydia said, to go in and want to learn the subject area and look at how things are evolving and stay current on what's going on. So that's absolutely, in addition to what's been said, that's tops with the learning agility as well.
So what are some of the top soft skills that you think interviewers are looking for? And anyone can jump in here and let me know what are the top three.
Communication, the ability to talk to people. We're way, way, way past the 90s stereotype where people in IT are down in a basement somewhere who never talk to anyone else. That's not the reality of the modern world. Tech's the enabler across many, many organizations now. And to do that, you have to be able to talk to people, whether they have technical skills or not.
Communication, what else?
So influencing, I mean, communication covers so many different areas, more than just speaking. But influencing, it's part of communication, but it's how do you get that person excited about the thing that you're excited about, or how can you get excited about the thing that they're excited about? And then how can you start to get your message across and show them that they might have a very fixed mindset or Danielle talked about learning agility and it's about actually someone coming with 10 years experience might have a very fixed way of doing things. So being able to influence them on your standpoint, where are you coming from, and just showing them, demonstrating to them, communicating to them. I'm kind of jumbling everything in together because it really is just about getting a bit of excitement, enthusiasm, evidence. But yeah, all of that kind of pulled together.
And what do you think the final one is, Danielle?
Yeah, those are great answers. I would probably put on top of that just the traditional being able to work in a team. I mean, we lead teams, we get things done through teams. And so you need people that are going to be a great team player, understand it's the team goal and the team win, and it's not just them.
So that leads quite nicely to my next question, which is, how can students highlight, their leadership skills or teamwork skills, even if they don't have formal experience in the workplace? Danny, I'll come to you.
So I would say a little bit of what I explained before, which was, maybe just highlight any school projects, any club roles. I mean, anything where you can draw the correlation to what it would be like to work at the employer that you're interviewing with. I think, again, we don't expect a lot of experience specifically in the space, but if you can show, carry on the conversation and describe some instances where you've displayed teamwork, where you were a member of the team, talk about your role within the team, talk about how the team worked together. I think those are exactly what we'd be looking for.
And is that one instance that's impressed you when someone's been talking about their informal experience in teamwork or leadership skills? Something that really stood out to you, Lydia?
I interviewed someone a few years back who had been working as kind of the only IT person in an organization, which meant that he hadn't had a lot of experience working in a team, even though he was a very experienced IT professional. So instead, he talked about the way he'd been able to demonstrate leadership and work in across the organization. He worked at a school, so how he worked with other teachers, how he worked with the children. So it's not a traditional team, but very much it's part of a team. And he nailed that interview.
That's great. And what about Danny? What about you? You're in quite a business-oriented environment. How does that work for you when you're interviewing candidates who come from not necessarily a technical background, but they're interviewing for a tech role?
Yeah, I think that, to be fair, right, we're a business school, which means we teach business and MBAs, but the people that I recruit into the tech team are the same people that Lydia would recruit or Danielle would recruit. They're not necessarily business people. Our customers will be more business minded. But if we're talking about team, then the business people that we interact with, then they will have different backgrounds. If you're working at Amnesty or Brew Coffee or LBS, you're going to get real different cultures and behaviors in there. I think, I try and avoid IT, calling it IT anymore, because IT is still that kind of like technology. It's your laptop, it's your phone, it's security. Whereas it's about technology, it's about digital, it's about AI, it's about data, it's about customer journey. And the more you bleed into that space, the more important it is that you do recruit people who don't have an IT background, that do understand what a business process is or what your current business is or the business processes. So there is a need to attract people, but those same people go, I want to get a job on that project, but I haven't got the experience. I've never worked on an IT project before. So it's just, I just think it's constantly saying, what are you able to bring that other people in those teams may not have? What specific experience, rather than what are the gaps that I have in relation to the people that are already in that team?
Yeah, I'd add on to what Danny said. I think there's this element of being yourself and knowing what you're really good at and making sure you get, that comes across. And hopefully the interviewer knows the team that's already in place and knows how you would fit into that organization. And so if you're crystal clear about what your strengths are and what you bring, instead of trying to, act like you're strong in something you're not, that's just a recipe for disaster. I mean, be yourself, be strong, know what you're strong in, make sure you portray that. And hopefully it's a two-way conversation. So hopefully if the fit is there, then it's the right opportunity. And if it's not, then the next one will be the right opportunity.
And yeah, speaking of crystal clear then, how can students, if they have limited time to prepare, what are the top 3 things that they should focus on without waffling about it, if that makes sense?
So is your question about if they have limited time to prepare, how can they prepare best? Or if they haven't done any prep, what are the secrets to getting through the interview? Which
let's say if they're under a time limit, for example, and the interview isn't very long, what are the top 3 things that they need to focus on that they can get across to the interviewer?
Go on, Lydia.
Understanding the organization, showing some understanding of what it does, what its purpose is, whether that's brewing the best coffee in the world or whether it's doing the best MBAs in the world. I once had an interview with someone who they were asked why they wanted to work at Amnesty, and they said, "Oh, well, I don't really care about human rights." I was like, "Oh no, that's not going to work for us."
Yeah, I don't think I would recruit them either, Lydia.
Yeah,
So that's great for my next question then. What's the best way to recover from a mistake like that? Or, trying to retract an answer which you wish you hadn't said. How exactly do you recover from that?
Be human. Just be human, right? That didn't come out really well, did it? Be more leprechaun, just own it and move on rather than go, oh, I hope they didn't notice. They noticed, right? They noticed. So call it out. Even better to edit yourself rather than just hope it wasn't seen.
And we want people who can admit when they've made a mistake. The last thing you want as an employer is someone who makes a mistake and then covers it up or pretends it didn't happen or gets bullish when pulled up on it.
Right, or completely lack of self-awareness when it happened.
I guess that's one of the soft skills then that they need to recognize and handle, being able to admit when you've made a mistake and then sharing that with the rest of the team. And that goes into the teamwork aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, just some humility there as well. You're not coming in to be, if you're presenting yourself as the best at everything, you're not demonstrating your real self. So if you have a doubt about a particular area, but you've got confidence in another, bring them both up and help show that contrast between the two. Mm-hmm. Be honest. And they'll, to Lydia and Danielle's point, they'll really appreciate, okay, this person is honest, they can be transparent, they can own things, they can accept their mistakes, they've got an aptitude for learning. What more do you want?
I think a lot of people find one of the hardest interview questions is, tell me about a time you made a mistake. Yeah. Because a lot of people want to say, oh, well, this is an interview, I've never made a mistake. In reality, it's the same thing. People are looking for, I made a mistake, here's the mistake, and then critically, here's what I learned from it. Here's how I dealt with the mistake, and here's how I put in place things to make sure I won't make it again.
Lovely. Well, it sounds like you guys have quite a few examples of the ideal interview or interviews that you can learn from. What are some successful, unsuccessful interviews that you have top of mind that you remember quite clearly? And can you share like some of the key takeaways from that?
Don't say you don't care about what the organization does is a good first step.
Yeah, I agree. That gets back to doing your homework and making sure that, that you're very comfortable explaining why you want the role, why you want to work for the company, how the fit is there. I think that's absolutely important. And
just that, I'm just trying to think of a few where they've gone really well. Everyone came out going, wow. And then most critically, it then transpires a year later, we were right. It was wow. And what was it that tied the two? And it was just about how they communicate, their energy, their enthusiasm, their excitement about what the organization does. You're going to spend a lot of hours in this organization. You should care. You should care about what they do. It's pretty important. You can spend more hours there than you are doing social stuff. So enjoy it. And that means being really caring about and showing that across, taking that across.
So can each of you share then an example of your favorite interview and what happened? Can you talk us through it? Lydia, I'll start with you first.
I've got so many. I need to make a quick call. I'm going to go back to the guy I mentioned earlier who worked in education. I'd actually headhunted him for a role in my team. He had a tech blog, which doesn't have a lot of reasons, but hey, I found it, and reached out to him and said, would you be interested in this systems administrator job I've got open? And first he didn't believe my email and put it through a lot of spam filters because he's a great technical guy like that. But then we spoke, he talked about his concerns about the job because he has reasons for being concerned. He's got some personal stuff and so on. So we talked about that. And then he decided to apply. He came into the interview, and not only was he incredibly well prepared, he knew what the organization did. He had great examples for everything. He showed his technical skills, but he also showed passion. And that, I think, came across more than anything else, not just both for the organization and also for the work and why he likes IT and how he likes solving problems. And even when we were talking to him about things that were not IT related, that same passion and excitement came across, and it then made us all excited about working for him. And he came work for us. It's a couple of years later. He's happy. I'm happy. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Danielle, do you have any examples of passionate candidates?
I do. And I think passion is the key word. So I had an opening for it was a director level role, and it was one in supply chain and transportation. So it was pretty narrowly focused. I'd interviewed, probably a dozen people for the role. And I had my sights set on one individual. He had, decades of experience in the supply chain space. So he seemed just very well suited for the role. And then at the end of the interview process, I had a woman come in who had a lot of experience in cyber. She had some experience in some legacy systems. She didn't have supply chain and transportation experience, but I absolutely fell in love with her. Her energy, she was very unique. She just brought amazing passion, amazing perspective. And so what I ended up doing was I did hire the supply chain and transportation person for the role. I immediately ran to a peer of mine who had an opening in his area. And I just told him, you have to hire her. And his first comment was, well, can I meet her first? And I was like, you will. I mean, it was the passion, the energy, the excitement about the company and the space, the work we were doing. She had great learning agility and could really come into any position. And so it was exactly what Lydia said. It was the passion that really shone through for us. And again, I look back and one of my best hires ever.
Lovely. Passion and learning agility. Danny, have you got one example of that too?
I've got a couple, and the one Danielle mentioned, I had exactly that, where she wasn't suitable for the role, and we made sure she got a job somewhere else in the business because she was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, that we wanted to have in the organization. And she did get a job, and she stayed there for many years, actually changing roles because we had a lot of agility. So that energy and that drive, but equally, at one point we were looking for quite a junior role, and we went through 100 different candidates, and it was quite a lot of work. And this one person really stood out, and it was his appetite for learning and his humility, and his self-starting nature. We had kind of learned himself, gone out and learned and done stuff, over and above what he had done in a previous role. And well, let's just say, 6 years on, he's still an absolute star performer who continues to learn and overachieves everything he does, and has just progressed through different specialities and different roles. So that humility and that learning agility, absolutely key.
Lovely. And I just want to tie this into then preparing for the more technical side of interviews. How can people prepare for this? It could be a coding challenge or anything related to that. Danielle, I'll come to you first on that. How can they prepare?
I think it gets back to the, understand what as best you can what the interview is going to involve. Maybe talk to other classmates that have interviewed with the company, or see what you can find online, just to walk in with more comfort level that you know what you're walking into. If you know it's a coding exercise, or if you know they're going to have a pretty technical interview based on the people that are interviewing you, just make sure you do your homework. Again, just come in prepared.
Lydia?
I'm kind of adding to Danielle's point, which is don't be afraid to ask questions of of your contact at the organization as well. Your hiring manager or recruiter or whoever it is, ask them questions so you can be better prepared. It's the same thing I've already said. Apart from that, it's going in, doing the best you can, not being afraid to admit when you've made a mistake, and not being afraid to screw up, because we all do. We're all human. Sometimes we make mistakes. It happens. And an interview always feels like it's the be-all and end-all, but it's not. There'll always be other opportunities, and that opportunity might work out better for you. So try to stay as calm as you can. Obviously, do any prep that you can beforehand, whether it's a coding interview, brushing up your leak code, whatever it is. But staying calm and just trying your best.
Danny?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, if it's written, then you just got to put in the time and put in the practice. But if it's verbal, they're really looking at how you're thinking and how you're solving problems and how well you understood the question. So the danger would be, I've totally understood it and here's the answer, and you get it horribly wrong because you haven't really taken the time to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And even if you don't know, you can show you're working out. You can just say it out loud. Well, I don't know if you've ever used DeepSeek as an AI. It has a stream of consciousness. You ask it a question, it goes, you're asking about this. So this means you might be interested in this. So in that case, and like really have that, articulate that stream of consciousness rather than coming out and saying the answer is 12. Show them why. And so whether you get the answer right is not as important as showing how you're trying to solve the problem. And as Lydia says, asking for points of clarification.
So what happens then when you're asked a question about a situation or like a behavioral question and you don't have like a clear like success story to apply to that? How do you come up with an answer?
Talk about it in theoreticals. Talk about how you'd approach it with the experience that you have, with the knowledge you've gained from listening to other people. Again, as Danny said, I couldn't agree more. We're not looking for the perfect answer. We're looking for, how do you think about problems? How do you try and work through things? And also, don't be afraid as one of the steps to say you'd go ask your manager. You don't need to be acting like you're solving everything by yourself.
Yeah.
Danielle, what do you think of that?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. It's about sharing how you go through your thought process, how you can carry on the conversation, ask good questions, ask clarifying questions. I love the idea from Lydia on the, theoretically talk about what you would do. I think that's a great idea as well. You have limited experience at this point in your career, so you have to think through about how you would do it.
And Danny, has there been any theoretical answers that people have given that you thought were really impressive? Have you given like an example?
I can't bring any to mind, but I do. I love the phone a friend or ask ChatGPT. I like that approach, but validating using your network is really good. But also, yeah, hypothetically, I think again it's that stream of consciousness. So it's saying, well, I can't think of an experience where I've done that, but if I were to do this, then I would probably check that, and then maybe I would do this. And then as you go through that, you might go, actually, I've got experience of that bit, so I can use an example on that bit there. But yeah, but don't pretend, don't make it up and go, well, I was on this space mission and we were running low on oxygen. So what I did is I pulled the supply from the dog and diverted it to my colleague's helmet. No, you got to just say, hypothetically speaking, and be honest about that.
Yeah, I'd add one more little thing to that. I think a little bit of silence while you think for a brief moment is fine. Just say, "Wow, that's a great question. Let me think about, my experience and see if I can draw upon one that, helps show that point." A lot of silence is uncomfortable and not great, but a brief moment of silence is perfectly fine.
I'd love to build on that. So a brief moment might feel like a lot in an interview. So there's that. Even if you got the answer right away, that little bit of silence is really useful because it shows them you've listened. It shows them that you've thought, and then you can articulate a response rather than you're almost tripping over yourself trying to answer because you haven't even heard the end of the question yet, and yet you're ready to answer it. So it shows a moment. And rephrasing or paraphrasing the question is a really great listening skill. So you've asked so-and-so, I can give you an example of such and such. Does that sound good? Let me go into that for you. It just really validates that you're answering the right question. I have sat in too many interviews where they don't answer the question. And all the interview panelists will sit there and go, and they'll write notes. And then they'll go on to the next question. They won't necessarily say to you, that wasn't actually what I was asking. They'll just mark you a 0 for not having listened to the question and not even having answered the question. So clarifying that you've understood not every single question, what's your name? So you want to know my name. Is that the first name, the last name, or 3 of the 6 middle names? I think that's really important, just clarifying it, especially if you're not sure. If you're not sure, then just clarify it.
I was going to say that I have a really good example of someone theoretically talking through a problem in an interview.
Yeah.
It was for a technical role. It was a technical interview, and we'd asked a question about, I think it was how you pass secrets in a particular coding language to do a particular thing. And he said, I don't know. I've never done that, but here's how I'd find out. Here's how I think I'd solve that. And he talked us through his steps. That involved Googling. It involved reading Stack Overflow. It involved talking to his peers. It involved saying to his manager, I don't know how to do this, but here's how I theoretically think. And he took us through the things that he thought would be important, like making sure that it wasn't exposed anywhere. And it was a fantastic answer, because I don't really care that he doesn't know this technical thing. I want to know when you run across something you don't know, because you do in jobs all the time. How do you solve that? He got the job. Still there. He's great.
That's lovely. And guys, taking all this into account then, what's one piece of advice you wish you had before your first ever big interview or technical interview, any sort, really? I'll let you ponder over that for a second.
See, moments of silence, not bad things.
Not bad. Mine's relative.
Not as long as they feel.
I'll just jump in. I think for me, during my first interviews, I was trying to be who they wanted me to be and trying to figure that out and fit in the mold. So I think for me, if somebody would have just said, look, just be yourself, that would have been really powerful for me.
And Danny?
So I got some advice, which I really like. It's saying that an interview is a gift. It's a gift to tell someone who you are, what's important to you, and to share your achievements. And that you shouldn't forget that it's just another human on the other side of the table, 2 humans having a conversation.
Lovely, thank you. And Lydia?
Mine's kind of similar, which is don't forget that the interviewer is a person too. They feel really scary because in this situation you feel like they're the one with power. But don't forget that an interview is a 2-way street. You're learning about the organization and the job and whether you actually want it, or whether you want to go to that university. You're learning about, is this a professor I like? Is this an attitude that I like? Just as much as they're learning about you. And I also wish someone had told me that it was okay to be nervous, but to just go in there and display as much passion and enthusiasm as I had.
Lovely, thank you guys. And one area that we haven't addressed yet is the shift to virtual interviewing versus in-person interviews. And one area, again, that I really want to address is body language. We've talked about communication, verbal communications, but what about, the way you move around, you use your hands? How do you get that across to the interviewer? How do you impress them with your body language, whether that's on screen or in person?
I think I'm very able to answer this question because until the last couple of years, I had never had I hadn't had an in-person interview since I was 21.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'd worked at an organization that was remote for a long time. And then I was looking for jobs around COVID, so most of them were remote. And so that's what I got used to. And actually, I freaked out when I had to do an interview in person. It's like, how do you do this? What do you wear? What do you say? Where is it? But I think across a screen, do the best you can to make sure that you're looking engaged. Make sure as far as possible that you're looking into your webcam, it's not off to the side. And just be aware that you're on camera and that they are watching you, but that also it's totally fine to stop for a drink. It's fine to need to scratch your nose. I'm sure all of us have done that in a meeting or whatever the case may be. Just stay involved, show that you're present. Same as you would if you were having a call with your best friend.
Danielle, I feel like you're about to say something. Have you got...
I don't know that I have any other advice to add. I think all of that's great. It's just the connection through the camera on the other side, just as you would in person.
Absolutely.
If I just think about what did I do before jumping on this call, I got my glasses cloth out and I cleaned the camera lens to make sure it wasn't smudged. I positioned myself so I had a reasonable background, or I could use a virtual background if I couldn't find a reasonable background. I could choose to be standing up and be more engaged, but what I definitely did is I switched off all notifications. My phone is on silent and turned face down. There is nothing else on the screen and there is nothing being popping up. I'm 100% engaged on this conversation and the people in this conversation and nothing beyond that. Those are pretty fundamental. And then the final thing is, what are you wearing? A shirt and a tie and a blazer when you're sitting at home, that's for the male colleagues, but it's a bit overkill. But don't wear a hoodie unless maybe it's JD Sports that you're applying to. So, really think about, show that you've made a bit of an effort, but don't go overboard, that it just looks contrived and uncomfortable. It's trying to find that balance. But if you think about what to wear, what to have in my background, where am I looking, then you'll deliver it because you've thought about it. You've brought it into your consciousness.
This reminded me of, I think, check your technology all works together before jumping on the call. If it's a Teams call and you don't usually use Teams, make sure that your computer's set up with Teams and that your webcam works with it and your microphone works with it and all your permissions are sorted out, because then you're not panicking and stressing in the moment. But also people understand when things go wrong on virtual calls because everyone's used to it.
I would do the same in person. I would physically reconnaissance the route. How am I going to get there? How long is it going to take? Have I got the right address? Am I going to the right place? So when I turn up in good time. I'm not flustered. I know where I am. And to Lydia's point, exactly the same with the technology. If you haven't logged into Zoom for 6 months, then check you can log into Zoom, have a test call, check your mic works, put a notice outside the door saying, I'm doing an interview, don't walk in, whatever it might be. Just put a little bit of prep to create the perfect environment.
So taking all that into account then, what's your one key takeaway from this? What do viewers need to walk away with and apply to any interviews that they're applying for?
Show why you're interesting as much as why you're interested.
Mine would be make it a two-way conversation.
Yeah. And just, put in the effort, do your preparation. And when you've done that, just show up and be yourself.
Lovely. Thank you very much. If you guys don't have anything else to add to that, we'll move on to the other part of the masterclass. Thank you for taking the time to share your tips and insights all. I think that we've all gained some very useful knowledge that will help everyone in the TechGirl community and beyond on their careers and journeys. Now, if you're interested in continuing your journey with TechGirl, please do consider joining our community if you haven't already. There are loads of opportunities ahead, from mentorship to events like our upcoming TechGirl Festival in August. And we'll give you regular updates on what's going on through our monthly TechGirl newsletter. And if you have any questions that you want speakers to answer for our next masterclass topic, which is on planning the first 5 years of your career, email us and let us know. We do want to hear from you. Thanks again all, and we look forward to seeing you in future sessions.